Hello YouTube Vintage Stereo Restorers. You're actually looking at a Technics 1975-76 model, the SL-2000. And this is sort of the, it's an SL-1200 in spirit. And the build quality is as good, but you'll get it at a fifth or a sixth of the price. Here's what I mean. I bought this one for $80 from some people that were downsizing. And it was an original owner table. And the lid hardly has a mark. The hinges work. Many of these had broken hinges. Great tone arm. It had the original Audio-Technica on it, which was a conical. This table works better with an elliptical in my opinion. It now has a new VM95 elliptical, which is a good match for this, for height and everything. And a few drops of oil on the motor. This thing is rock solid. It's full manual. I am beginning to really appreciate full manual turntables because there's no drag on the tone arm from pushing a mechanism across. This is basically 33-45 on-off pitch controls. Anyway, there are other ones like the SL-Q202 is a great table, and it's as good a table, maybe not as heavy duty in the bass and not as resistant to vibrations in the room, but it's a great table, and it's a fourth or fifth of the price of an SL-1200. And this is a little caution from a technician here. The new Mk7 SL-1200, I actually owned one briefly. I bought it from somebody who had it a few months and said it just wasn't a good enough table to use in their DJing business. And this is from somebody that has a lot of respect in this area, one of the few that are still doing that. And so I bought it at a reasonable price, and I was actually surprised. It's good, but it's not an SL-1200 Mark II or Mark III, which seem to be about the pinnacle of those. If you have a different take on that, that's fine. You won't offend me by saying so. But the Mk7 was a disappointment. And the other thing is, all of the basic parts in it are not, it's not a Japanese turntable anymore. It's got parts that you would find in one of the Audio-Technica, one of the ones that are made in China. And I just don't think it's the same product, not even close to one of these that's made in Japan. And on the same thing, here's this KA-2500, 1968 Kenwood KA-2500. It's kind of in my listening area here where I'm done on the bench with it, but I want to hook it up to a pair of monitors. Got some energy monitors here. And just run it for a while, you know, burn it in a little bit, and listen to it. So this is actually music that I have on the turntable now that I can listen to without a copyright violation. It's the St. Aloysius Choir from 1975. Only a few hundred of these ever made. And I'm one of the kids in that picture, believe it or not. Had this one a long time. And I know it's not Christmas time, but it puts me in a good mood. The one thing about listening to an amp like this, at this volume level, the outputs, this class AB1 configuration with quasi-complementary outputs, they are going to stay cold for hours. They barely get warmed up, even though they're biased. They're actually biased to 10 milliamps, just enough to turn them on. What's doing all the work are the transistors on this board in here. It's in class A mode until fairly loud, and if you set the bias right and everything's fresh, you can't even really hear the transition point, and it's louder than you would expect. Even at that level, they're just not coming on yet. It takes about 4 watts of power flow to get them on. So basically, in your low-level listening, you're listening to a Class A amp without having to buy one. That's the neat thing about it. It's cap coupled. It's a great design. It uses the Suzuki pair, which was a PNP and NPN driving 2 NPNs. And it's the same configuration. So you could buy, for instance, very close to this in power and everything is a Sansui AU555. Try to get one of those these days under $500 or $600 and then restore it. If you've restored as many of those as I have in this, they are very, very similar design. And they're basically, they're contenders. About the only difference you might find is appearance. Build quality is both excellent. Very similar parts inside. But this one you can get these around $100 unrestored if you watch out for one. And then you have to put, maybe $80 or $100 worth of parts in it. And then you have an amazing restored late 60s amp. And the nice thing about these is got these great, the rocker switches, a low filter for the phono, a high filter, source tape. It can take 2 magnetic phonos. You can use one of those old reel-to-reels that just has a tape head, tuner and auxiliary, the split treble and bass. These are a great setup. You can actually run a tape recorder, or even you can make up a chord and run your guitar in here through a preamp. It's kind of an interesting rig. I know a guy who has one of these and he runs his guitar through it, and I'm telling you, he does not turn it down, he turns it up. Anyway, my whole thing is restoring vintage audio that is affordable. And I'm finding these days, this is the truth of the matter, that some of the brands have just priced themselves out of reality. And Sansui seems to be the #1. And they made great product. They were a superior manufacturer. They made a great product, but everybody's asking too much for them. The only deal I've had recently is the small Sansui 210 receiver, which I paid $100. No, sorry, that one was $80. And it was a really minty unit. I was trying to work a deal on a 555 and a 501 recently, and a 999. And we were just talking I couldn't restore them. I'd have too much tied up. I'd be awake at night worrying about having $1,000 tied up into an amp. Anyway, there's some food for thought. If you think I'm wrong on this, let me know. Let's have some comments. Thank you for watching and listening.